to now and the mess the sport has been left in. So Mercedes withdrew their appeal. They've said, so this was in accordance, it came out the day after the FIA, I believe it was the day after, the FIA released a statement talking
blaming the fans for the misunderstanding.
They called it a misunderstanding. They said it was tarnishing the name of the sport and the World Championship, which it clearly is. And they said it was a misunderstanding between the fans, the teams, and the drivers. And then they said, we're going to investigate this with the drivers and the teams to make sure this never happens again. No mention of the fans, no clarification as to the misunderstanding, no saying if the rules were breached. Obviously, they're not going to admit to it, but also not defending Masi properly and saying this is why he made that decision.
I guess that comes at the end once they've done the investigation. They're going to have to publish the findings of the investigation.
So here's the thing.
So then it's going to be like out loud. Everyone's going to know.
Do you think that'll be public known though?
I think it has to be public. Like with the Ferrari thing, it was not necessarily the case because it's kind of all behind.
Just to give clarification on the Ferrari thing first of all, the Ferrari in 2019, they came up with some rocket ship engine, clearly fastest on the straights, incredible stuff, and then mysteriously, with about 3 races to go in the 2019 season, there was some clarification of the rules. That's what they called it, and suddenly Ferrari's engine power just gone. And then if you watch 2020, they were clearly a midfield team, like 6th in the constructors or whatever it was, something awful.
They were absolutely horrendous, bro.
And this was, everyone's like, well, clearly they've broken the rules, but the FIA said, we'll just investigate this behind closed doors, and they've never been given a public punishment. We never find out what happened.
But that's different, though, because with this, the consequences are everyone's talking about. I think they would not have investigated it if there was not, if you didn't get the amount of noise that was there after the race. Everyone was talking about it. It's not just we were talking last time about Harry Kane tweeting about it.
Yeah.
But that's how viral it went. It's not just F1 fans. Usually when something like this happens, it's just F1 fans are talking about it because no one else knows it kind of happened. But it's F1 fans. It's people who watch F1 casually. People who've never watched even people who've never watched F1 are commenting on it what just happened?
Yeah, because it was free to air in the UK as well, shown on Channel 4. This was the world stage for F1.
Exactly. So now everyone has seen what has happened, and everyone's talking about what has happened, and everyone's blaming. I think the general consensus kind of between all the fans is, there's people say, but Max deserved to win it, people saying Lewis deserves to win it, but the general consensus is Lewis lost it, not because Max was Max did overtake him and it was great overtaking then. But the consensus is Lewis lost it because the FIA screwed him over. Yeah. That's kind of the consensus of kind of everyone. And it's reflecting very badly on them. I think that's why they came out and they started speaking, because it just looks bad. And I were talking about this. I was watching the WTF one the podcast, right? And Katie mentioned how Michael Masi did not have any experience as, say, in the as a team principal or anything like that, and he's been assigned kind of one of the toughest. It is the toughest position, because you have to deal with all the team principals, keep everyone kind of in line. Very, very difficult, and he has to do that every race. He has stewards change and all of that, but he has to do it every race. Charlie Whiting was a team principal, the ones before him as well. He did really well. Why are you not choosing someone who's had experience dealing with team principals and the way they act and stuff? It was very easy to see that Toto goes on, especially for us now, it's very clear because you can see how Toto goes on the radio and Christian goes on the radio, and they influence Michael Masi so easily. Yeah, so
Christian even admitted afterwards, jokingly, he was I was screaming at Masi to bring the safety car in. I just shouldn't be allowed. Same with Toto, obviously, his was being...
No, I don't mind them. I don't mind them screaming or whatever, but first of all, he has to have some sort of secretary,
second in charge,
second in charge, a secretary or something. He or she deals with all the ranting teams, and then he just conveys they want this, they want this, they want this, they want this, and then he deals with it. Or the only communication they get is whoever the secretary is telling them what Michael's gonna do. That's it.
Because the safety car talk, there shouldn't have been anything. That's just a safety car. You can't talk about that.
No, but even this happened before when, during the race when, or is it a previous race, he said, Michael, please don't bring the safety car out.
Oh, no, that was for Gio, yeah. So when Gio
that was
the VSC, Toto was saying about this, the whole point of them talking to the race director would be to complain about, I don't know, if
I think that's
Max or Lewis got shoved
unacceptable.
off the, like lap one,
Lap one.
when Lewis cut the corner.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's understandable. Like, of course, you're going to complain about
When you're
that.
complaining about the safety car, I think that's not acceptable from the team principles. Like, basically, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
But I think he's so easily swayed that they know if they do it, like they would not have done this with Charlie Whiting, because he'd just be like, "Yeah, shut up, I don't care what you have to say," and he'd just do whatever he thinks is right. But with Michael Masi, they know from experience that if you push him, he'll do whatever you want. You just have to scream the loudest, essentially. That's maybe why Christian was screaming, because he knows that if that happens, he'll get his point across and Michael will do whatever he wants. Maybe it's the case of like whoever's causing him more of a headache, he'll just give it to them, just to shut them up. I don't know, but if that's the case, that's unacceptable.
Completely.
Like, I think the race, I honestly think, and I kind of, at the end, I'd kind of given up on the fact that the race was going to end under the safety car. Because the race had to end on, that's the thing, if you're going to do it for, like, if Charlie was doing Let's Race, you do it in a very different way. Like, for instance, if you want to do Let's Race, you would have put out, like, a red flag, got them on the starting grid, got each of them on soft tires, and let them race to the end. But you would not have put in a safety car, or, the track was, so the safety car was out 4 laps.
Yeah.
After the second lap, the track was empty. So he could have let them pass, and then, so he could have let them, like, everyone on laps themselves, 3rd lap, they've got 4th lap to go, and you got 1 lap of pure racing Max behind Lewis, and then no one would have been able to complain because they followed every single procedure. Just Red Bull were lucky, or like their pit stop strategy at that point would have been better than Mercedes.
Yeah.
But the way he did it, I think ruined the sport. Like, I think everyone was really excited, and I think especially the new fans, they're like, a lot of them told me they're like, we've never felt as excited ever before with any other sport.
No way.
And so that shows that F1 can bring that excitement that no other sport can. But I think the way he did it just kind of ruined it in the eyes of everyone.
Oh yeah, it makes you feel so shit. Especially the new fans now as well. Even they know something bad's happened. Like, even they're feeling sort of a bit guilty about, like, it was nice, but, like, I don't know, it wasn't all that because it was manufactured. Like, the fact it was made that way was just not great. But I don't know, so bringing it back to, like, Masi, I guess.
He has to go.
Yeah, there's no excuses. He really has to leave, there's no way. Like, I understand, like, he's got a tough job and all of this, and he should have more people around him. Crofty was saying that the FIA, they get 60% of their revenue from F1, but they're not putting enough attention into, like, creating a good structure around the sport. I'd say
there's one race director and they get 60% of the revenue.
No, the FIA itself as a company,
yeah.
Because they run like WEC, Rally, and all of the other stuff. They get 60% of their revenue from F1, which completely makes sense. It's just, instead of creating a good structure about how the rules are in place, the rules are fine. It's just the people implementing them. Obviously now
not all the rules, but yeah, I get what you mean.
The conversation now is, the race director, does Masi go? Then how many people do they have in support? And also, why are they rotating stewards? Which is a point you mentioned a while ago.
Yeah, I did read about that. They're rotating stewards. The whole idea behind rotating stewards is to avoid one steward being biased. So if you rotate and you have, like, say, I think they have, it's not like, the way I understood at the beginning was they randomly get people to do the job. But no, they have a roster essentially of like 10 stewards. And then every race they choose 3 of them. So all of them are qualified to do the job, and every race they choose 3 different ones, just to kind of balance out of like the bias, towards Hamilton, towards Max and stuff like that. So that's the whole idea. But the stewards are also people who've raced before. If I remember, the guys who've raced, they know what racing is.
I think it's one of the 3 has to have driven before, something like that.
Yeah. So I remember they mentioned there was a Finnish driver a while back. He was part of the stewards. I don't remember who was relating to like some Kimi Räikkönen incident, like 2018 maybe. But yeah.
So back to the point you were making then. So do you reckon the new race director should be an ex-team boss?
Yes. I think the idea makes sense, like, I've like say for instance that they even if they bring in like Williams, what's her name? Like I don't think she should be that bad. Like I'm saying if they bring her in, Claire, she's been a team boss. She knows how to interact with all of these guys. She's done it for years.
They respect her as well.
Yeah. She's not maybe the best at it, but then she didn't have like the funding to do all of that.
True.
But if she's in that position, she's experienced. She knows like what Toto's like. She knows what Christian's like. All of that. She knows how to deal with them. I think if they bring in the Ferrari guy from a few years back, who's before Matteo
Stefano Domenicali.
Yeah, if they bring him in,
he's the owner of F1.
Is he?
Yeah, Stefano Domenicali owns F1 now.
What?
Do you not know this? Yeah. Yeah, hold on, let me get this up. Stefano Domenicali owns F1. Basically, Ferrari have a monopoly on the sport now. So all the mafia guys, it actually used to be for FIA, for Ferrari International Assistance, because Ferrari used to get away with everything. What was I saying? Matteo Binotto? No, Stefano.
I thought then Liberty Media owns what if he owns F1?
He is the CEO of a
Okay,
Formula
no,
1
he's not the one I'm talking about. He's the CEO, not the owner. The owner is Liberty Media, no?
Yeah, no, the owner is Liberty Media, sure, but he's the CEO of F1.
Okay, yeah. No,
oh wait, hold on, he replaced Chase Carey.
He's not the guy I'm talking about. I'm talking about the guy who, team boss from Ferrari a few years back, Italian guy.
We did this. I remember we did this, and I forgot his
name. Yeah, you know
what
I'm talking about. I used to.
Yeah,
really like
he had the silver hair as well.
Yeah. If he say, for instance, if he does it, man, like people wouldn't be able to like. You'd be a good, Maurizio.
Arriva Bene, that's the one.
If he does it, for instance, he knows how to deal with all of them.
Yeah.
Like you'd say the only thing would be like say a language barrier, but like you can't say for instance he's got the experience of dealing with high stakes, high pressure situations. He's dealt with all of them. He knows what he's doing.
He knows the rules as well. Like we said this, so that like if you're in a team, you know how to finesse the rules in your favor, which means if you then become the owner of F1, you're aware of what they're gonna try and do. So like you almost. I'm trying to think of an example for this, but like, do you know what I mean? It's so much better to.
You know who should do it? You know who should do it? I thought of a better name. Ron Dennis.
Oh God. No.
Imagine Ron Dennis coming back.
Ron Dennis. For context, Ron Dennis. If you imagine, McLaren's a fun, bubbly, orange team. Just imagine McLaren 5 years before that, completely grey. Not because the chrome car was iconic, but like their office is grey, the personality of the team grey, the way they drive grey, the way they act grey. Like it was.
No, but he wouldn't be put in that position because of Spygate. Like they wouldn't trust him.
Oh yeah.
They wouldn't trust him based on that. Like he stole from Ferrari, put the designs into his own car. To go on and win and champion, they're not gonna let him do it after
Spygate that. Actually, that's the video I'm gonna link. I'm gonna link Spygate in the description of the YouTube video.
And Crashgate, you have to mention Crashgate as well.
If we're doing Spygate, I'll
you have to mention
Crashgate as well. Fine.
That's where Renault purposely crashed a car in Singapore for Fernando to go win the race because of like safety car and everything. And the funny thing is, he won the next race, or like I think one of the next 2 or 3 races. He won purely on pace. They didn't have to crash, but they wanted that win, and they went so bad for it. They crashed the car, and then he won on pace like 2-3 races afterwards. I find that like hilariously ironic.
So